The minute you turn on your cell phone, you immediately become discoverable.
So you went from location A to B to C to D to E, and over time I learned like every pattern or everything you've ever done.
Cape is revolutionizing the telecom industry by setting a new standard for mobile carriers. It even owns its mobile core and routes all of its cellular traffic through it.
Rotate your network ID so you appear as a new person each day.
Especially when correlated with our identity, potentially our payment information, start to build a really complete picture of someone's life.
Let's say you're shopping on Amazon, all that behavior is then known. All this data is available and it's out there because telecom carriers sell your data.
It uses BIP39, or a seed phrase, to secure your phone and its data. Could this be the best cell carrier for Bitcoiners? But that's not all Cape does. In a time when a data breach of your entire life is possible by a mobile carrier, by prioritizing user privacy and security, from protecting against SIM swap attacks to partnering with Proton for a comprehensive privacy stack.
And we kind of figured out quickly that in this category of problems we're trying to solve, so many of them live and are kind of resident in the network, not on your device and not in the apps. It's really like a network problem.
I just interviewed Rudy Wang, head of customer growth of Cape. Let's find out as I sit down with Rudy. Now, you've worked at Uber and Meta and also Spenmo. What drew you specifically to Cape, which is a mobile carrier focused very deeply on privacy?
Yeah, so Cape is a really interesting company because it stretches all these different boundaries and all these different sectors. So I have, from my prior experience, I've experience in like fintech, consumer businesses, etc. Cape is one of the few places in which it has a consumer enterprise and a government business, which is really rare nowadays. And it just speaks to the fact that full connectivity is relevant across all the different aspects of our lives, and in many, many good ways. But then there's also, while we've been making this change, we have sort of unknowingly or unconsciously given up a lot of privacy in terms of making that change. A lot of us, we love the convenience. We love being able to call an Uber. We love being able to, watch an Instagram video on the way to work. But we've never consciously made that decision that in doing this, we are basically allowing us to be tracked and allowing our data to be leaked or breached basically all the time. And this isn't like, a case in which you're going to Walmart and your Walmart data is breached. When your telecom data is breached and sold, that tells people almost everything about your life, right? Where you go, people and things like that. And so I just thought that mission was really, really interesting, really relevant to the way technology has developed for today. And so that's what brought me here.
I think people probably, you're right, are unaware of exactly what information the carrier is leaking. You are getting location. How much sensitive information are we leaking, or specifically, what is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so if you think about what kind of information is available to your carrier, obviously there's your location. In order for your cell phone to work, your telecom carrier needs to know where you are to be able to connect you to the closest cell phone tower. And so there's that. And once somebody has your location, they know where you sleep at night. They know where you go during the day. So they know where you go to work. They know your place of worship. They know where all your doctors are. Probably know if your kids go to school and you pick them up. They know that, and they'll know the entire routine that you engage in. So that's one thing. The other thing is there's a record of every single person you've called or texted. And so most of us, even if you're using encrypted chat apps like WhatsApp or Signal, you're still calling your aunt, your school, you're getting phone calls from your doctor's office and things like that. So your entire social graph can be elaborated. And so someone can basically see, okay, here's the top 10 people in Heather's life. And that's really useful for all sorts of kinds of attacks, right? And social engineering. And then, they can also know IP addresses. So, if you're using a VPN or using a particular service. So in 2024, the FCC fined AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile $200 million for selling customer location data in a way that they weren't supposed to do. And then also in the same year, AT&T lost they were breached by hackers. Hackers got access to the call logs of over 100 million Americans. That's like a third of the US population. And so all those call logs show all this information. And it goes back years and years, right? So this, somebody could look at where you were, 2 years ago today based off of that information. So that's just incredibly powerful. And I think we're used to hearing about data breaches now, but when you think of a data breach with a telecom, it's a different kind of data breach. It's not like a Walmart data breach where they have some of your shopping data. It's a data breach of your entire life.
That's very sobering, Rudy. So as head of consumer growth, you may have answered this next question already, but I'll ask anyway. Is Kate primarily targeting, kind of Bitcoiners or high net worth individuals, or is this a path to mass market adoption as people become more aware of how much their privacy is in danger?
Yeah, our goal has always been for mass market adoption. I think it's relevant for everyone, but the people who have been our early adopters and been most interested are particularly people in the crypto community. I think for a couple of reasons. One is just that if you're in crypto, you're more targeted. The second is when you're in crypto, you're probably also already a little bit more privacy and security aware, and also more tech forward. So one example is our SIM swap protection. So our protection against SIM swaps is different from what you would find with any other carrier. It basically works like a crypto wallet. So you get a seed phrase, and you change your SIM to any other phone without the seed phrase. So normally a SIM swap attack happens when somebody social engineers, customer support rep at Verizon, let's say, and says, hi, I'm Heather, but I just got a new phone. Please switch my phone number to this new phone. And then once I have that phone number, I have other information that allows me to hack into accounts and steal your crypto. So the way that we do it is that without that seed phrase, that number can't be changed to a new phone. So no customer support rep, no CAPE engineer can switch a phone number from one phone to the other. Only the subscriber can do so. It's a concept that the crypto community is very familiar with. If they have cold wallets, so I think they end up becoming a lot of the early adopters in this space just because they're so familiar with this kind of technology. It's been around in the crypto for a while, but in the world of telecom, this level of security is new.
Yeah, that anytime you've lost your PIN or password or whatever the carrier calls it, you're just kind of locked out, and they're trying to protect you against that SIM swap, but it's going to be kind of that single point of failure in the same way where once you lose that seed phrase, you're locked out. Do you just start over? Like, has that happened yet?
That has happened, and it's pretty tough. Like, we can't really help people there, but it's part of the security model. We're exploring other ways to make it easier on folks as well. But I think your community would know, like, that's the most secure model. Your seed phrase is your phone number in this case.
Yeah, using the BIP39, it's the same standard as Bitcoin hardware wallets. I guess your target audience is familiar with that, and our target audience is familiar with that. Did you do this because this was purely a technical decision, or because you specifically wanted to target, Bitcoiners and the crypto community?
Well, it's relevant to everyone. So we definitely had the crypto community in mind, but also just there's stories of entire families, their bank accounts are drained because there's still a surprisingly large number of banks and financial institutions where you have to give a phone number as one of your authentication methods, right? And then there's social media accounts. There's like certain social media accounts that you still need to use a phone number. And so, we've seen cases of celebrities, their social media accounts are hacked, and then they promote a particular crypto coin, but it's completely fraudulent. And so, I think the use case for not wanting to get your phone number stolen is pretty broad, just because it's still today the number one authentication factor, not just for crypto accounts, but other financial accounts, your social media account, all sorts of things.
Yeah, everything got attached to our phone number. We were kind of asleep at the wheel about it. So this is a question I was looking at either your website or a news story about you, and I saw that CAPE, before the rollout that just happened to kick off the year, you actually rolled out to some people who were victims of domestic violence and some people who I would obviously count as non-technical. How did they work with this BIP39, kind of this foreign language that Bitcoiners are familiar with, where you have a seed phrase for a wallet? I'm thinking maybe this is a less technical audience that you tested with. Were they able to kind of grasp this whole, without using the word BIP39, but grasp using a seed phrase and going this new route? How did they do?
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of background on this, we started getting messages from people saying, "Hey, I'm a domestic violence survivor. I'd like to get your service." At this point, we weren't offering service to the public yet, and so we definitely we want to accommodate that. We give the service for free, but at the same time, we also don't feel like we're the entire solution. If someone is being stalked by somebody partner who's technically sophisticated, there's other issues as well that we're not well placed to address, and so we list a number of partner resources there, and we partner with an organization called Safe Escape. So Safe Escape, led by Chris Cox, um, they will work with survivors to lock down their digital life, and so they will help survivors. You know, they can help on laptops, and then for phones, in terms of the phone service, we through them are able to offer service wrapped up in a context of somebody who can help you with all the more sophisticated technical aspects of it. That being said, we have lots of people signing up for Cape now who are from the crypto space, but also who are not from the crypto space. And we've tried to make it very user friendly. So for example, you have multiple reminders to save your seed phrase. It's very easy to copy and save your seed phrase to a password manager. There's multiple, there's validation. You have to retype in your seed phrase so that you're not forgetting it. And so, there's things that we're doing to make it more easy to onboard.
That's interesting to me because I've worked in the technical space for a while, and trying to get normal, non-sophisticated form of tech is interesting. Now, do you accept Bitcoin or Lightning payments for Cape subscriptions at all? And if not, is that on the roadmap for the future?
Yeah, we get that question a lot. Again, we have a lot of folks in this space who want to pay with Bitcoin and other crypto. We don't accept crypto right now. It's definitely something that we are looking into and would love to be able to offer in the future, but I don't have a specific date for it. I think the key thing there is what people want is they don't want their identity to be tied to their phone number and their phone account and all their phone activity. And so what we offer there right now is we separate that data. And so we use Stripe as our payment gateway, which is pretty normal in the e-commerce space, but in the telecom space, it's extremely rare. So your traditional telecoms, Verizon, et cetera, they all have these systems called BSSs, which is basically a business support system. And it's this huge legacy system. And it requires keeping all the customer addresses, credit card numbers, et cetera, on their systems themselves. Now, when you move to a modern payment gateway, we don't keep that information. Stripe just gives us a randomized token. And so even if we were hacked ourselves, and we always consider the security model of like, okay, even if we were hacked, even if somebody within Cape wanted to get customer information, could they get it? They wouldn't be able to get it. They just get that randomized token. You can pay with a prepaid card, et cetera. And so there are various options right now to sign up for service in a way that is more anonymous, but we're always trying to improve. We've got lots of demand for a way to pay with crypto as well. And so that's definitely something we're looking into.
I've definitely fallen down the Stripe rabbit hole, and I did not know that. That's amazing. Now, a lot of Bitcoiners, they're skeptical of anything they might perceive as, quote unquote, centralized. So how do you address kind of that trust me, bro concern where you're asking people, to route their calls through your network and kind of trust you as this new thing that they're maybe unfamiliar with and may think of as, well, it's just another carrier?
Yeah, sure. One of the big things that we have to do is build trust. And the main way that we try to do that is we are as transparent as possible. And so if you go to our privacy policy, we have the most plain language privacy policy in the industry. And we tell you exactly what kind of data we collect and how long we keep it for. If you go to, again, a Verizon privacy policy, what you'll see is however many hundreds of pages. And when you try to find out, oh, how long will you keep my location data for? It will say, as long as necessary to serve the purposes of this privacy policy, which is basically another way to say, we're going to keep it as long as we want. And so in our privacy policy, we show exactly the information that is kept, exactly how long it's kept. And then separately, we also have a trust center that gives real-time information about our security posture. You can go on there and download past audits. We are right now, and we would love input from your community. We're right now trying to figure out a way in which we can audit and therefore prove our short data retention. So we retain call metadata instead of like 5 years. We retain it for what are called CDRs or call logs for only 1 day, which is
Wow.
just yeah. So and so we're looking for an external audit for that, so that we have additional external proof that this is happening. And so open to suggestions, but that's one thing that we're going to do around the corner as well.
Can people view that audit on GitHub or GitLab, or is that something you're going to post on the website?
So it's all undefined right now. We
Okay.
want to try to make it as accessible as possible, and so still looking at options.
These are things that our users, or our readers, I should say, at Lightning News would be familiar with. The privacy angle, there's a lot of people who are saying, jailbreak or unlock a phone and make sure it's an Android and put graphene on it. And that seems to be the option in the community, which means you kind of have to be highly skilled in order. That's like the developer route. And I'm sure
Yeah.
you can watch enough YouTube tutorials to get there. And I think if I remember correctly on your website, it was mostly Google phones or Android phones, and you seem like you guys know what graphene is, and you're kind of there, like what kind of phones are available.
Yeah. So Graphene OS, it's a more secure OS. The reason that we started looking into it more is just because a lot of our early subscribers were Graphene OS users. When you have a specific OS, every cellular network is going to interact differently with it. And so once we realized, we have a whole bunch of these folks who are interested in Graphene OS, we realized, we have to put more like technical work in here so that it's a first class service. So all the messages are working, all the calls are working, and things like that. So there is work that needs to be done in order to make a network compatible with that. And so we did that. We also made Cape available in the Crescent store. So the Crescent store is a privacy first app store. So you don't need to go through Google at all in order to download it. That was another big ask from the community. And then the other part of it was, as you mentioned, it doesn't take a huge amount of work to upload graphene, but if you're not tech at all, it might feel a little bit scary to you. And so, we'll still advise people, you can just upload it yourself. But if you don't want to do it, we also offer Pixel devices with graphene pre-installed by us in our store. So, just takes away a tiny bit of that friction because it's been in such demand in our community.
So you can really go quite private, and you really don't have to do the work yourself.
Yeah, we try to make it easier.
Another thing that
Privacy has always been like, I think, sacrifice for the sake of other types of conveniences. And so I think the way to rectify or remedy some of that is to make privacy convenient and make sure that you don't have to do some like major compromise in order to be more private and lose a huge amount of functionality. And so our whole concept here is, you sign up, you get premium service, you get nationwide coverage, you get everything that you would expect from regular premium 4G, 5G service, but it's more private and secure, and you don't have to be compromising tons of usability for that.
which is actually really impressive, more than I actually imagined. Honestly, that's because I'm one of those people that I wouldn't use graphene because I'm not going to bother with it. I'm just kind of dealing with what the cell carrier plan that I bought. I'm just kind of there with that.
Yeah.
Now, another thing, Rudy, that you guys are doing with Cape is, and our audience would be familiar with this, is the Proton partnership. A lot of us use Proton, and you've bundled together, if I have this correct, encrypted email, VPN, and cloud storage with Proton. So is this kind of the vision of being this one-stop privacy stack, or is the focus on mobile, or just, and you also talked about working with Safe Escape, so you've got these partnerships going to kind of keep everything ultra private.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think oftentimes when somebody comes to a service like us, or privacy first services like Proton, things like that, oftentimes they have had some sort of incident. Let's say they've been scammed, or they've had some sort of scary thing where it feels like I'm getting these weird, creepy ads, or it feels like I'm being followed or tracked in some way. And they don't exactly know where the threat vector is coming from. So when they come to a particular service, they just want to know, like, hey, can you solve all my problems? And so we focus very specifically at the cellular network level, because we believe that's where a lot of the problems lie, and where there are basically no solutions, right? There's lots of app level things. There's VPNs, there's encrypted chat apps, but at the cellular network level, because you need to build a huge amount of infrastructure for this, we took a huge amount of time just to build the mobile core or mobile infrastructure to run a telecom. There's essentially no solution in the space, and so we've come in and filled this space. Once we're here, because everybody needs a cell phone plan. In your typical T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T cell phone plans, they're going to be bundling Hulu and Netflix and all these other things with it. Our vision is really when people looking for more privacy and security, they can come to a Cape and see more and more of their problem being holistically addressed. So for that reason, it really made a lot of sense to partner with Proton. Proton, they've got email, they've got VPN, they've got Drive, they've got a whole bunch of services that when you put it all together, it really sort of expands that value to the customer. And so we also had a huge amount of alignment with them in terms of values. We've had a great experience working with them in terms of how to just educate people more about privacy and making it more accessible.
Now, you mentioned Cape owns its mobile core. So can you explain a little more about what that means practically and why that matters for security and differentiates you from other choices?
Yeah. Sure. So owning a mobile core means that we own all the software infrastructure that it takes to run a telecom. And that's extremely important because that is how we provide our privacy and security features. If you don't have your own mobile core, then many of the decisions as to what data is collected by the network, how calls and SMS is routed, is basically outsourced to one of the major carriers. So it's T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T. We're the only carrier in the world that is privacy focused, that owns our own mobile core and has all our traffic running through it. So you've probably heard of a lot of other telecoms that have popped up. There's a ton. There's Mint Mobile, there's Boost Mobile. There's Mr. Beast announced that he's launching a mobile carrier. I think there's like a whole bunch of other celebrities launching mobile carriers. Kroger's, the grocery store, also has their own wireless service. All of those do not have their own mobile core. There's what are called like a light MVNO, which basically means that they put some light marketing skin over the core infrastructure of other major telecoms. It's very different for us. So, for example, we're able to offer services like network lock, which protects you from attacks. A signaling attack is basically when a compromised, let's say a telecom, says, hey, Heather, you are now roaming with us, so please direct all call and SMS traffic to us and location data. So imagine, that's an incredibly powerful attack. If you look up SS7 signaling attack on YouTube, you'll find a whole bunch of videos showing how this works. And basically that happens at the control layer of the telecom, where basically think of it as like the switchboard as to where am I going to route Heather's calls, text, SMS, location data, etc. We have a proprietary firewall there that protects against these types of attacks. It will deny any sort of request from these types of suspicious networks, and that you can't do that if you're Mr. Beast Mobile.
Yeah, and probably the Proton that I have on my phone right now, if I forget to connect that VPN, it's probably not going to protect me from that either.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of these attacks happen at the network level, which is a level like, think of it as a layer below all the apps, right? So in order for the apps that you typically use to interact with the internet, it's all got to carry over this cellular data connection. And so that's the layer that we're really focused on.
Yeah, I tend to turn my VPN off. When an app stops working, I go, oh, you know what? It's the VPN. If I turn the VPN off for a few minutes, I won't have problems. I can use the app, and then I'll go turn it back on, and I often forget. Is there any sacrifice in service for having this increased level of security that Cape provides?
No, so we're providing premium service. You get nationwide data, not only nationwide data, but in over 50 countries, you get international data roaming included in the plan. And so, all the top countries that Americans would typically travel to are covered there. There's 4G, 5G coverage, and there's basically all the basic functionality, but we make it all a little bit more secure. So, for example, voicemail. Not that a lot of people use voicemail nowadays, but our voicemail is actually encrypted on our server. And so if Cape were hacked somehow, and someone got all the voicemail messages. Where a lot of times there are attacks in which the attacker gets your OTP sent to your voicemail, and once they've hacked the voicemail, they get your OTP. For us, this has to be decrypted on device using the private key on your device. And so it's just an example of, you get all the baseline stuff, but it's every piece of it we try to make a little bit more private and secure.
I can see this becoming more in demand from people who are kind of outside of this highly technical world that we live in. Do you know what percentage of mobile users would be projected to kind of demand this CAPE level of privacy or security as their default, maybe in the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can look at probably the adoption of other things. You've mentioned VPNs a lot. VPNs used to be very, very niche. A lot of people didn't know what they were. Now, 1 in 3, I think nearly 1 in 3 Americans use a VPN. Now you'll see VPN commercials, like you'll see VPN commercials on primetime TV and things like that, and it's very well known. And so I think it's the same in the mobile plan market. Right now, it's niche because nobody knows another option exists. Right now, it's pretty much, you have to sign up for a cell phone plan. You have to go for one of the traditional carriers because they control 99% of the market. There's really no other option, and so that's just kind of the deal if you want to be connected. I think once there's another option, it will follow the same trend, and there'll be this third of the American population who just thinks, I want to be tracked less. I'm not comfortable giving up so much of my privacy just in order to participate in like the modern internet world, and I think that desire becomes more and more strong as you think about AI and the other sort of just technological and developments in the world right now. Privacy, I think, is becoming more and more relevant rather than less so.
Yeah, Rudy, everybody's got a Claude bot that they're talking to on their phone right now with their Telegram or their Signal. Is there a security angle there that CAPE helps with? Because I know there have been some questions about, these open Claude bots and how they're kind of taken over and they're also not very secure.
Yeah, it's very much an evolving thing. I use AI. It's convenient in both professional and personal life, but also it introduces a lot of potential security and privacy vulnerabilities, and we haven't discovered them all yet. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that comes out over the years, but we are going to want to leverage AI for good. I think there's a lot of areas in which AI can be leveraged for example, handling spam and a whole lot of other things that would be really good and pro-human. But I think it's still early.
It's still very early. Okay, Rudy, 2 more quick questions for you. This is great stuff today. This is really interesting because it's it's about time somebody provided this level of security and certainly spotlighting what it can do for victims of domestic violence, journalists, and the privacy and security angle there. So this is a great idea. I think you guys have thought of a lot of different angles here in the audience you're targeting, the tech that you're using. So this is very unique. You guys have a lot of funding at CAPE, a lot of venture capital. And so is the end goal kind of acquisition by a major carrier, or is it an IPO, or maybe, staying independent for the long term?
I think we've grown quickly. We don't have any specific outcome in mind, but whatever outcome that is, what's important is that the privacy promises that we have made to our customers are respected, and that continues. And so even within our privacy policy, it notes that if we did end up becoming acquired in any sort of way, that our privacy policy must remain relevant as respected as part of the terms of that deal. And so that's the most important thing. I don't think we have a specific outcome in mind, but I do think that we are. We're not a natural add-on to another company or service, if you think about it. The reason that a lot of services are add-ons or bundled onto phone plans is that everybody has to have a phone plan. It's quite fundamental. And so we see ourselves as that fundamental baseline service, and it'd be hard for us to just be an appendage or attachment to some other technological service.
Now, for any Bitcoiners reading this, I'll give you the floor. Obviously, Rudy, make the case for why CAPE should be a part of any Bitcoiner's security stack alongside the obvious that we use around here, hardware wallets and multi-sig. Go for it. Make that case. Tell them why.
Yeah, so I think that if you're in crypto, you're already aware of privacy and security and how the two are linked. The more information that you can keep private about yourself, the less that you are targeted. You're already tech forward in these many ways. You're using you're using cold wallets, VPNs, other types of apps. But the one hole in your arsenal right now is at the cellular network layer. There hasn't been another option. There is this option now. We are able to keep things a lot more private. We rotate your IMSI, that's your subscriber ID or identifier, every single day. So it's hard to track you over time. You actually look like a different subscriber on the network every single day. And you just won't find that kind of technology anywhere else because it requires such a huge amount of investment in that core mobile infrastructure.
Yeah, beginning to see where that VC capital is going for sure. That's definitely, this stuff is not cheap. And, your cell phone plan though, $99 a month, that's less than I'm paying right now. That's actually pretty incredible. I'm going to have to take a deep look into this as a consumer as well, and not just a tech nerd who wants to know, kind of the Bitcoin angle. I appreciate your time, Rudy, because there have been a lot more conversations among friends and colleagues over the past year. Certainly we've seen a lot of SIM swaps, wrench attacks, kidnappings of people with crypto. We've seen some violence, and we've all been talking about how to improve OPSEC and how to go more private, and just little things that you could tweak or little actions that you could take over time. And I think that's where the conversation's been, or buying a gun or improving your self-defense, just all these different things. But nobody's really talked about this angle yet of changing your cell phone carrier. There's certainly been some that have been around for a few years that I've paid attention to, but just haven't taken that leap. But this certainly sounds like something that, you guys have thought of a lot of different angles here, from what you call the MC, what is it called again? The MC code, or that you flip?
The IMSI, yeah, we call it identifier rotation. The IMSI is your subscriber ID. It's basically like the license plate of your mobile identity. And so we change that every day.
So yeah, if you're a target in any way, whether you're a journalist or, activist, dissident, somebody who's been a victim of stalking or violence of any kind, having that identity rotated is certainly, that's unique, I think, in the space. And so appreciate that. Is there anything else that I didn't cover or didn't ask that you wanted to get in there?
No, I think that the last thing I'll say is technology, crypto itself has brought a lot of great things to us. It's also brought a lot of new threats, and we're really happy to be able to offer service that keeps people a little bit safer in this more digital and connected world, whether it be like journalists and domestic violence survivors, or folks who are investing in crypto and are just trying to live your life without becoming a target.
Very cool. Yeah, I might know some people who definitely need to hear about you for sure, especially working in this space. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you for your time and being so gracious with answering all my questions today. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.